Save big money on your entire roofing project now at Menards. Protect your home for years to come with Owens Corning Architectural Shingles. They offer long-lasting performance while providing ultimate protection with a 130 miles per hour wind rating and limited lifetime warranty. Choose from over 50 options of Owens Corning shingles in-store and on Menards.com. And check out more of our great deals going on now.
Save big money at Menards.
Hey, I'm Mark Goodman.
And I'm Alan Light.
On today's podcast, in celebration of International Guitar Month, Pete Townsend of The Who will join us.
Pete went deep with us into his relationship with the guitar and with music in general, the new Broadway version of Tommy. He clarified the status and the future of The Who, and much, much more.
Sound Up with Mark Goodman and Alan Light, the only music podcast that matters. Get it on Pandora, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Yo, what up? This is DJ Nu-Mark, a.k.a.
Uncle New.
From Jurassic 5, and you're checking out the library with my main man, Tim Onicle, on www.rapstation.com.
Legendary MC SlimKid3 of the group The Pharcyde and Jurassic 5 DJ/producer DJ Nu-Mark are set to release a new collaborative LP on September 9th via Delicious Vinyl called SlimKid3 and DJ Nu-Mark. With that, I want to welcome back DJ Nu-Mark to the library with Tim Onicle on rapstation.com.
Hey, Tim. Thank you for having me back, brother.
Cool, anytime. Real quick, let's go back to the early 90s, Sunset Studios. J5 and The Pharcyde are recording, obviously separately, but recording. Did you have the opportunity to kind of drop in on any of the recording sessions with The Pharcyde? And if so, is that kind of when your producer, wheels were turning about maybe in the future I could do something with these guys?
Well, actually, they were recording at a studio called Hollywood Sound. It was actually misquoted in the video that we put out, but they're recording at a place called Hollywood Sound, and half of J5 was recording at the same studio. They're doing demos, and I had just met Charlie Tuna and Cut Chemist there, and around that time is where I met Trey. So it wasn't the entire group of J5, but it was before J5 had become J5. It was Unity Committee, was to put a finer point on it. But, I met Trey very briefly on one of those demo listening days. I don't know what Unity Committee was doing. I think we were listening to, I forgot the name of the song that Unity Committee was recording, but I was listening to one of their demos there by the pool table, and later on that night I met Trey real briefly, and they were obviously doing really, really well at the time and doing a lot of recording, and it was a brief interaction, but we reconnected later on, obviously.
Just jump a little forward, but not quite to the present. In 2011, you two linked up to do the EP Another Day, Another Dollar. So is that when you officially realized, all right, this is when we're going to do a much bigger project together? And how soon after did the collaboration process begin?
Actually, I wasn't even sure if we were going to do anything after that. When we recorded that song, it was really for Trey. He needed something to keep things moving along, and we recorded. And I realized that he was really easy to work with. But our first real conversation about recording more material was to form a supergroup of kind of 90s classic artists or golden era artists, whatever you want to call it. And we were just going to, get like a 4-man or 3-man plus one female MC or something kind of group and do a super group. But we started recording more material and was just kind of on some be like water shit, just kind of let it be, because it was just sounding right. And as most artists will say in this industry, once things are right, you just let it be. I don't like to tamper when something just feels good. I've done that in the past, and it's just calamity after that. So we just started recording songs, and it just felt right, and so we kept going with it, and that's what formed this album.
The new LP is SlimKid3 and DJ Nu-Mark. So I'm just curious, what was the first song that you guys kind of mastered or recorded for the LP?
I think it was "Let Me Hit." if I'm not mistaken. It was either that or Work Hard, which is ironically the first song on the album. Yeah, it's one of those two. Those were the beginning stages. It might have been, Let Me Hit might have been one of the first beats I made for him because it felt very much like a Pharcyde record when I was creating the music for it. But yeah, I think it was those two.
I was just kind of curious, like, what's the mission of an album, if there is one. So for this collaboration, did you guys have like a mission that you, when done, wanted the listeners to know about, or what was the mission of the the collaboration? Yeah,
well, Trey and I would spend a lot of time talking a lot in the studio. We tried recording, where he was in Portland. He doesn't live here in LA.
Right.
I tried sending him beats, and he would record something on them and send them back, and we just weren't really feeling the vibe like that. So he ended up recording everything here in LA with me in the studio. But in those conversations here at the studio, we just wanted it to be we just wanted to pick up where we left off, pretty much, where our prospective groups left off. I remember feeling like extremely proud when I was seeing, I think it was the back of a Source magazine where Native Tongue was kind of semi-announcing that Pharcyde was being inducted into Native Tongue.
Oh, no. Okay.
And I remember feeling really proud about that, being from LA, and that Pharcyde did that. And then shortly after that, Pharcyde disbanded.
Right.
So I told him about that story, and he was tripping out. And I was like, man, I kind of want to pick up where you guys left off, and I kind of want to pick up where J5 left off, because also, you got to remember, when Trey and I recorded this, J5 hadn't even been talking.
Right.
So, about doing any kind of reunion, or doing anything. So both of our groups were split up. And so I was like, let's just pick up where both our groups, left off, and continue, what we do. A little bit of J5, a little bit of Pharcyde, into a hodgepodge. Let's make this happen. And
the first two singles released off your collaboration were Bullion featuring Del, the Funky Homo Sapien, and Murs, and then also Bon Bon Fire. So I was, why these two singles, and how do they help introduce the listener or the audience to what you just mentioned, the theme and the mission of the album?
Well, I think Bullion that's featuring Del and Murs is just a good way to let people know that we're picking up where we left off. Kind of get back to what we were just saying. And I think Del and Murs are kind of right in the vein of where we're at. And we wanted something loose with no choruses, and that song just kind of feels like a loose back-to-back MC throwdown, it felt loose to me, and I like that. But the beat felt kind of a little bit like Hyro. So I wanted to just pick up on that note and keep it pushing. The Bob on Fire one was just something kind of experimental with me and Trey, but just felt good to me. I anytime I listen to it, I want to hear the whole thing. So and these two songs aren't our lead single by any measure, but they're just songs that felt right to us when we were in the studio. They just felt, they just kind of wash over you. I guess that's the best way of putting it.
Nice. Other tracks on the album are, King featuring Diamond D and I Know, Didn't I?
Yeah.
Can you briefly talk about creating these tracks, and what do you want the listener to experience when they kind of hear this?
Well, King is a really important song for us. That one features Diamond D, and that's a little bit more of a rugged side to this album. It's a little bit harder, maybe a little bit of a more New York sound, I guess. But I just always thought it was important for both Trey and myself to kind of shake hands with the East Coast right before our groups split up, but we just didn't have time to do that. And that's what that song kind of does. I feel like there's a lot of disconnection these days in hip hop, whether it be a new school artist working with a middle school artist, or an old school artist working with a new school artist. I feel like there's a disconnect, and so I'm always kind of on a mission to bridge gaps that make sense. I feel like Diamond D and SlimKid3, that makes sense to me. It's the same feel. even though they're from, opposite coasts. So I like connecting the dots in that way. And so, I mean, that's why that joint is important. The I Know Didn't I track features a Bay Area legend named Durando, soul singer and sweet soul singer, I guess you can say, who just recently passed away. Rest in peace, Durando. I think his session with us might have been one of the last recording sessions he did before he passed. I'm not sure on that, but it happened very quickly after our session with him. And he was kind enough to come in the studio, listen to Trey's verses, do ad-libs, and he was just tripping out on the song because it was his song that we sampled. So he was like, wow, Trey wasn't at that session, but he was like, Trey really did his thing on this. Like, he was bugging out. And so for me, that really meant a lot. And that's going to be our main single. The video is coming very, very shortly. I think the video drops in about a week from now. And so, yeah, we're going to be pushing that one pretty hard. And I'm excited about that song. I'm excited about this album.
I want to go into another track, Fade to Black, featuring J-Live.
Yeah.
J-Live's verse is a commentary about entertainment and pop culture and society as a whole, and how people want to learn about superficial things in entertainment in order to escape reality. As a producer / beat maker, how do you, like, obviously with lyrics, right? We know what they're saying because they're lyrics. I mean, they're words. With beats, it's a little more difficult because you're not saying, in English, you're not saying Spanish, you're not saying Chinese, whatever. You're speaking with beats. So how, as a producer, how do you help convey a message just through your beats?
Music always leads the way with me. Like, I don't ever try to force anything in the studio. So, it's like if I sample a kick drum, it leads to a snare drum, it leads to a hi-hat, it leads to a bass line, it leads to a loop or a chopping of a loop or a creation of a bass line or melody. But I'm not actually doing anything. I don't know if that makes any sense. Like, sometimes I feel like I don't even deserve credit as a producer because I almost feel like the universe is pushing the song out. It's really... I don't know. It's kind of, if a producer is listening to this interview, he'll kind of understand what I'm talking about. Like, there's a part in the beat making process where you're not even really doing anything. You're kind of like just letting the music pull you in a direction.
Okay, yeah.
And if you're open enough, you'll go down that road with your beat.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to steer it some way, you will be working hard, and you will be creating a beat. But for me, I don't really work in that fashion. I just kind of start something, and then that something asks for another component. It goes, okay, look, I want to, I need some beans on the side of this dish. I need some rice over here. It asks for things, and I just give it what it's asking for. I'm just like kind of like the slave to the music, really. So I don't know if I convey anything, Tim. I think what I do is I go down the road of where the beat's leading me, and it ends up being a song that's either melancholy or really hard hitting and nasty, or something that's asking for a story. Like we have a song called Godzilla or Gamera that, like, the beat is asking for kind of a raw story, and then at that point, I'm one of those producers that likes to talk to the MC and try to get a certain feeling out of them or a good ad lib out of them, because I just feel like it's my job as a producer. I'm not really a beat maker. I'm a producer. If a beat comes out a certain way, I say, hey, look, this is really asking for some political commentary or sign of the times. This is a very selfish, time, which is the case with the J-Live joint, kind of bringing me back to what you originally asked. Like, it's a selfish time. I mean, everybody's taking selfies. Everyone got a car and they're by themselves in a car here in LA. Like, it's just a selfish time, man. Like, there's barely any groups left. Everyone's a solo act. It's just he says it. It's a sign of the times. Follow me. All this. It's like, that's just what we're living. But I might have a commentary, but by no means do I like create the feel unless I'm really, really working at it, or if I'm working on a movie and they need a cue.
But what you just talked about with like being a slave to the beat. I mean, that I think I know what you're saying in terms of like for example, when I put together these interviews with music and whatever and something, right? Whatever sound I need, it's not all the time that I have this blueprint in front of me, be like, all right, Nu-Mark said this, I'm going to play this, bam, bam, bam. It's like this voice that only I could hear is telling me, oh no, you should put here, you should put, he mentioned some old school thing, you should totally put someone talking underneath or something like that. So I think it's like, I mean, but for me that feels like that's just shows your experience as a producer, right? It's just that when to say yes and when to say no.
Yeah, well, for me, I think it came from DJing actually, because when you plan a set list, like if DJs are listening now, like when you put together like a box of records or a box of 45s, or if you're on Serato or whatever you're using to spin, like if I play what I'd say from Ray Charles, it might say, oh, you may want to play Hit the Road Jack too, because it's in the same vein. Not only is it the same artist, I mean, that's a no-brainer, but it's just asking for like a texture. You know what I mean? It's asking for something, and if you're open to that, the possibilities are endless. It's probably one of the reasons why I love music so much, and why I never get tired of it, because I'll never be a master of it. Anyone who claims to be a master of any art, especially music, is a bull-faced liar, because you'll never master music. It's endless. It's infinite. It's infinite. You'll never own every record that's ever been put out. There's people who have tried. You'll never master a violin or bass or cello or any. It's endless. It's endless, and there's always another style.
Right, definitely, and it's constant. Yeah, I mean, it's constant learning and bending and.
Yeah.
So I want to obviously continue on, and this is in the same conversation of being a producer or DJ. When you're working with an artist such as Trey, is it helpful for you to be familiar with their discography? This way, what beats and instrument, etc., works for their flow, or would you kind of rather go in there without knowing any, hearing anything they've done?
Well, with an artist like Trey, I definitely would want to know, because he's been around the block a few times, and he's a golden era MC from a golden era group, a very important group in my opinion. With a new school artist, not as much. It is important, for a guy like me, it's important, but on a global scale, like for the average producer, I don't think it's as important. But it's good to know what an artist is up to and what he's doing, what his flavor is, in order to like execute the smash down in the studio. You know what I mean? Like, you got to kind of know what these MCs are up to. Like, there's some MCs where I've played like really hard beats to, and they're like, no, I need like moody, melancholy beats, and vice versa. Like, I've played like melancholy beats or like kind of like deep beats or whatever you want to call those kind of beats, to guys who just wanted to smash and talk about like gun running and banging or whatever, and they're like, no, I need the hard fish. So you got to kind of know where their head's at and what they've been up to. But then every now and then you get this curveball where you get like, I know a lot of MCs from my era, like there's a good handful of guys that have made really deep like beats, and I've given them those kind of beats, and they're like on a mission to kind of change their image and do harder shit. And I'm like, you're going to do harder shit? Like, doesn't make any sense. So there's the curveball that happens. So it's really, when you're giving beats to these guys, you kind of want to give a sprinkle of this and that in there so they can kind of see, if you might hit something with that. And yeah, you just don't want to miss altogether. So yeah, there's every now and then you get that left turn that throws you off the path.
With this LP, SlimKid3 and DJ Nu-Mark, how do you guys select who to feature or who to get on to do features? I mean, you have K Natural, Durando, J Live, Diamond D, Dell and Mur. So kind of, what was that selection process like?
Well, I think K Natural will be probably the biggest question mark that people have been asking me lately. Like I keep hearing this guy K Nat, but who is he? K Nat is a guy that travels with Trey on the road for the Bizarre Ride to the Pharcyde shows that have Jay Swift and C Brown and some of the original players. Of course, Fat Lips on stage. But K Nat is like, he's just a bright spirit, man. I don't know how else to put this brother, man. He's just an amazing person, man. Like every time Trey would come to LA, I'd be like, yo, is K Nat around? Tell him to come to the studio. He's an amazing writer. Like he would come up with ideas in the studio, like the Diamond D joint, the King of the Jungle hook he came up with, and it was just a freestyle on the mic, and I just kept the take. But like that's the kind of aura I want in the studio these days. Like I just want bright spirits in my home. Like I don't want any bad energy here in the studio. As soon as they enter the door, it's just truthful music, being truthful with each other. If something's whack, it's whack. If it's good, it's good. He's just one of these guys that just has a really open spirit, and we just had to use him on the writing process as well as two of the joints on the album. The thought process behind like Adele, the Murs, the Diamond D was again kind of picking up where our crews left off, and those guys were in that vein. I suggested Diamond to Trey. He's like, man, if you can get him, that'd be great. And Diamond and I had just played an All 45 event in Toronto. Yeah, it was in Toronto. And I let him know about the album, and he was like, yo, let me know what's up, and I said, man, we may want to pull you in on a song, just kind of throwing it out there to see what he would say, and he was open, so he was kind enough to blaze it for us. And the Dell one was like kind of an ongoing conversation with his manager, and Trey was open to it from the beginning because, he's a West Coast hero, So, yeah, it was just, open conversations about who we thought would fit that we respected.
And I guess, was there anything, because you guys are coming from two groups that when they're on stage together or when they're doing albums together, they do. I mean, it's the big thing with Jurassic 5, right? Making sounded like one MC, right? So was that another consideration to have, like, well, we want to make it as fluid as possible, so they actually, each of these guys sound like they could be a part of in a group with Trey?
What's really interesting, man, is something really, this whole process of this album, it was really meant to be, because everything from me and Trey meeting each other and us not doing the supergroup idea and recording just with each other was all really, really meant to be, because at the end of the album creation process, right before we were going to send it to mastering, I just played the songs. He goes, let me just hear all the mix down. So I just went in row on my disc drive, just playing songs. Like, I guess the computer just alphabetizes it, or does it by date, I guess, your Pro Tool sessions. And so as I was going in a row, that ended up being our exact album sequence. So
wow,
it was kind of eerie. Like, that's never happened to me before. Like, usually, like, when you sequence a record, you have to sit and go, oh, this should go after that. Oh, wait, we need a little skit that goes between songs 4 and 5 or whatever. But this one, we just kept looking at each other with, like, our eyebrows up, like, yo, that really worked together. And so I was just writing it down as I went. I ended up just saying, hey, man, it's just the same order that's been saved in my drive. Like, that was kind of weird. I don't know if that answered your question, but, like, the cohesiveness of this was just already there.
Right.
I mean, talk about the music leading, Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
that was just one of those things, man. Like, I just let it be. It just sounded right.
But that goes to, like, the you being the just experienced in the music and producing, is just like, I think a newer producer might have been like, oh no, this can't possibly be. We have to change this and this, but. Yeah, it's that, like that it's that inner voice that's telling you, no, this is right, don't.
I thought about it. Trust me, Tim. I thought about it, brother. but I was like, this is just weird. And Trey's so zenned out. He's just like, nah, man, just let it be. And I'm like, you're right, player. I'm not gonna mess with fate, So it was interesting, very interesting.
Nu-Mark, I want to switch gears a little bit. Obviously, you guys Jurassic 5 is back. You guys just finished a reunion tour. If you could take the listener into the first show, what was it like being back on stage? I mean, were you guys nervous at all? Also, is there any worry that in a reunion that chemistry that you guys once had would just not be there anymore?
Well, the first show was Coachella for the reunion tour of Jurassic 5, and it was a really interesting show. I can't speak for the MCs if they were nervous. They might have been. I don't know. I was pretty cool as a cucumber until our engineer dropped Cut's portable turntable, and the needle shattered into pieces.
Oh no!
Just to kind of rewind a little bit for the listener, though, Cut and I do a DJ routine on stage where he has a portable turntable around his neck, and he cuts up with it and scratches with it.
Right.
And I have like a record necklace made out of 45s that triggers 808 sounds. So we do this whole like walking towards the audience, record chain, guitar chain around our neck, DJ solo. Well, the turntable that he uses isn't like, it isn't like a Technics 1200 or a professional turntable by any means. So once that needle dropped on the ground, or once the turntable dropped on the ground, our dreams looked shattered, or at least our faces looked like our dreams were shattered. So as that happened, so this is all happening, by the way, 10 minutes before we get rolled out on stage on our risers. So as that turntable drops on the ground, Sir Paul McCartney just happens to walk up out of nowhere. Don't ask me. And so I'm like, do I take a picture with my Gemini homie, or do I help Cut Chemist? So I took a picture with my Gemini homie. We got that picture off, and then I handed Cut one of my 44/7s, which is like a pro needle, whatever, from Shure.
Right.
Handed it to him. As that happens, Z-Trip walks up out of nowhere and is like super gluing the needle into Cut's rig. It doesn't fit. It's not even meant for the turntable. He has like Scotch tape and super glue and is blowing on the fucking needle as they're rolling our risers out on stage. And so our faces are beet red. Now we're nervous. Now we're like really nervous. And we get to the solo part of the show, which is like 15 minutes into the set, and it went over okay. I don't know. The footage is out there. I mean, it was sloppy. I'm not going to lie. We've had cleaner days, but we got the point across, and the gigantic turntable did really well. We do a 5 foot in diameter, huge turntable that we use at the end of the solo. But no, everything went good, man. It was a really, really one of the most unique pre-show experiences I've ever had.
Right. I want to continue. When we last spoke, I asked you if there was anything you wish J5 was able to accomplish prior to the break, you guys disbanding. And you said, and it wasn't the main thing, but you said you kind of were hoping for mainstream radio play. Now that you guys are back together, is this still something that you hope to accomplish, or is it are you at a different point in your career where it's not about the mainstream radio play? Well,
no. If you can ask me this question 10 years from now, and if I still don't have a hit, I'm still going to be asking for it. For me, it's really my wish for being 1/6 of that group, and it's really my wish. Period. Just as DJ Nu-Mark, I'd love to have a hit. I'd love to have like a major smash. Just because I was born and bred on hearing all my favorites on K-Day out here,
Mm-hmm.
Hearing Public Enemy for the first time on K-Day, hearing NWA smash K-Day and De La Soul and Juice Crew and all my favorites growing up, they were on the radio, and that was by no means selling out. It was getting your music heard, and that's what music is supposed to be. It's supposed to be heard. So, yeah, I'll always want that. And I'll always want that for the group as well as myself. But that said, my mission right now, after, putting out my own album, Broken Sunlight, and creating this album with Trey and putting out a bunch of mixtapes and DJing and whatever. I'm on some slow and steady wins the race-ish. You know, like I'm on some like, you know, spoon-feeding content to anybody who really cares about what I'm doing as long as I could possibly do it. You know, I still want to walk up on stage like B.B. King when I'm an old man and DJ with a box of 45s even if I need a cane. You know what I mean? Like I'm going to be doing this till I can stop doing it. Like I'm going to keep doing it. Like I started playing drums at 7. Music's been in me since the beginning. So like it's I'm not one of these dudes like, oh, hip hop's a young man's sport, and nah, this is music. Like I play you know, hip hop, I play soul, I play cumbia, Latin, Brazilian music. I play everything, and you know, I want to continue to do it as long as I can give that experience to the audience.
Is that the thing that kind of I've always when I saw you guys perform as J5, and then also just, you know, obviously through YouTube videos of you on stage, you seem like you just seem to be having a great time.
Yeah.
What is it about performing in front of the audience that you enjoyed the most?
Well, I don't know for me if it's so much performing in front of the audience that makes me excited. It's doing what I love. Like you'll probably see me dancing around and acting a fool in my studio the same way. But you know, it's just again, I'm going back to this theme today. The music is just leading, and it just takes me into a altered state, you know, and it just, you know, plays tug of war with me a little bit and just keeps dragging me down the road, man. Like, yeah, it's fun. The audience is great. Don't get me wrong. Like, it's nice when you know, see people show up to hear you. Don't get it twisted. But for me, it's like when I'm like on stage, like for instance, like with J5, you probably see some clips where I'm just like in the back tripping out, like on the music. I'm kind of listening to like what I did in the studio in like 99 and 2002 and going, damn, that's actually pretty decent, man. It's actually holding up. Like, I'm in that state of mind. I'm in a like very connected with the music state of mind. You know,
Right.
You know.
Speaking of your live performances, your toy sets are, you know, obviously a fan favorite. You seem to use
cool.
You seem to use every and any toy you can get your hand on. But I was always curious, has there ever been a toy that you really wanted to use and it just didn't work? And if so, how many times did you try to make that toy work until you were like, forget it?
Yeah, there's been a few. There's been one that did work and then didn't work. It's actually on my toy. For those who don't know what the hell we're talking about, I fill the whole stage up with kids' toys and rig them into my DJ setup. But no, there's one toy. There's the sax guy. It's like a saxophone player that like kind of like wobbles back and forth while he's playing the sax, and he's playing a kind of a dope groove actually. He would work one show, stop working another show. I fixed him maybe 6 times, man. Like I finally just had to retire him. So that's one that was actually on stage with me that worked, and now I just can't get him to work. There's another toy that like at first glance you're like, oh yeah, this is a no-brainer. Like it has like, it's a keyboard. Actually, the keyboard pulls out of the toy. It's pretty dope. Like almost like a sidekick or some shit.
Oh,
you know,
nice.
Like it flips open. Like I don't know. It's a weird the way it opens is pretty dope. And then it has some keyboard sounds or whatever. And then there's a whole drum machine patch. And then there's a whole like sound effects thing going on with it. But I just can't seem to integrate it into my show. And it's driving me a little bit insane, to tell you the truth. And then let's see, there's one more that there's this one like mini turntable that's like on a keychain, but it's just so small, and I don't know how to integrate it. I've tried, and there's also this racing car toy that makes really dope sounds, but for some reason it just doesn't make sense in my set. Yeah, there's a bunch, dude. Actually, I think I have more. I'm looking at them right now on the wall as we're talking. But yeah, there's one really dope one that looks like an MPC. Like the pads light up, but it makes no real usable sounds. You know, like so you run into this. You know, it just with toys it's much different than records because you can't control tempo. They're very, very volatile. They can stop working or make weird sounds at any time. They don't sound good to begin with. So pulling off the toy set is very, very difficult. I have to be very concentrated, not only on stage, but on the setting up and the creating of the outputs and setting up the actual set.
Is it possible would you ever consider producing an entire album based on your toy sets? And if so, is there an MC in mind that you think would work best with kind of the music curate from these toys?
Not a whole album, but I thought about a song. But then I saw someone did a song with toys already. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know if this is just a stage thing or if this is something I can integrate in the studio. I tend to like really kind of darker production, and this is a little bit more happy.
Right.
But there is one toy that has a crazy, crazy loop that I want to get in. To answer your question, kind of. Probably a song or maybe an EP at the most. But, maybe something to think about.
So I want to actually, you just mentioned, I want to turn back to the album with SlimKid3 and DJ Nu-Mark, which comes out September 9th on Delicious Vinyl. Last time we spoke, you talked about your Broken Sunlight album coming from a dark place, and you just mentioned you kind of you like darker concepts. So is this collaboration with Trey kind of a continuation of your attraction to those dark concepts? Or are you just kind of out of that and into a different?
It's half. Because I think when I think of like Pharcyde's production, it had a dark side to it for sure, like a green. If I were to put color on it, it would be green.
Right.
I don't know if that makes sense. I think in this kind of way, but it'd be like a nice green. When I think of J5's production, I think of it as like rust. Burnt orange kind of, burnt yellow, like kind of like vibrant, more geared towards the stage. So it's half dark, half kind of, brighter, energetic. A dark would be, I Know, Didn't I, maybe? But actually, I Know, Didn't I, which is about to come out, is kind of right down the middle. It's kind of half J5, half Pharcyde, which makes it really beautiful. But so that's probably a bad example. But like Godzilla or Gamera is a kind of a darker beat, kind of more Pharcyde, has a little bit of like a Brazilian kind of influence in there. Whereas like King is more like towards the stage and kind of like has that What's Golden feel a little bit, from J5. So yeah, it's half and half, man.
I want to quickly turn to your vinyl collection, which is roughly 35,000 pieces. Real quickly, what are the top 10 pieces in your collection?
Oh man, I can't even rattle off my dude. Don't do this.
Okay,
to me.
all right.
I'm gonna have an aneurysm at the end of this question.
So
no, I can't do it, man. I have too much. I have to get rid of some vinyl, man. I have too much, man. I have to do this because there's a lot of clunkers that are at my mother's house. So I got to get rid of the weight and make it all quality and less quantity, man. I mean, I got heat over at my studio. Obviously, I picked through everything,
right.
But damn, like there's a lot of shit I just don't need, man. But no, I mean, I mean, you might ask me this question one day and I'll say one thing and another day it'll be something completely different, man.
Definitely.
Depending on what mood I'm in. Lately I've been very much into, Latin music and I've always loved soul. That's where I get my inspiration from. Whether it be sweet soul, northern, funky, whatever it is. Soul is just so deep, and no matter how hard I try to scratch the surface, I can't seem to get down to the next level. It just keeps going and going and going, man. I just love it so much.
You, in your interview with Crate Diggers, you talked about not just your appreciation for the music and your vinyl, but also your appreciation for the cover art.
Oh, yeah.
So ultimately, are you judging kind of a book by its cover? I mean, do you, how many pieces do you have that you just have because of the cover art, not because you actually want to hear the music?
Actually, not that many.
Oh.
Not that many, because when I've bought records, when I've just kind of cold bought records and I bought them home and they were clunkers, I trade them in for something else.
Oh, okay.
The records I was speaking about earlier when you asked me about my top 10, I bought 20,000 records when I was 15 years old with my DJ partner, Amani Smith, at the time. He and I were in a house party DJ crew called Bum Rush Productions, and we used to go buy records from this old jazz cat in the Valley that always had dope jazz and soul records. And, we're pulling Apache out of there and, incredible bongo bands and funky drummer and, Lou Donaldson records. Just cool shit. Like, we would always pull stuff out of this guy's collection early out in the game, and we finally just said how much for the whole collection. And he said $500 for 20,000 records. And so we were just like, yes, sign me up. And so within that lot of records, there's a lot of beat down or useless whack 80s 12 inches that just not good. And I love me some 12 inches. I like a lot of genres. So yeah, those are the ones I got to get rid of. But to go to your question though, if I buy something and I know I'm not going to use it, or I know there's no way it's going to fit into a DJ set or anything, I try to like trade it in for something else or send it back to Amoeba or give it to a homie or whatever, But I do judge a lot of my records by the covers though, because, usually the crazier the album cover, the iller the record. It's just been my experience. Or if you see like 3 white dudes and 1 brother, that's going to be a banger of an album, or vice versa.
Nice.
Like if there's like a token 1 ethnicity, you got some shit going on that album.
So that should be that you should. I think one of the chapters when you write a book should be, if you have a token 1, you're good, you're golden.
Right.
In the video you posted of behind the scenes with you and Trey for the album SlimKid3 and DJ Nu-Mark, I noticed part of the video showed you guys doing a kind of a photo shoot for your album cover, for the vinyl cover. Yeah. How much? I just curious, how much of I guess influence or did you have into creating the album art for this album, in this particular album?
I had a lot. I'm a real fan of photographer that shot our cover art, or our whole layout, I should say. Her name is Ixchel Laura, and she does this really cool, she uses expired film and does a lot of double exposure work on the camera. But her photos just seem so I don't know, they're inviting. I guess that's the best way of putting it. She normally just shoots women, and my girlfriend introduced me to her, and I was looking at all her pictures, and it's like, God, it's just so beautiful. She has a real way about getting the point across. And so I asked if she'd shoot me and Trey, and she was really open to it. And the guy who did the layout I used before, Alfred Hawkins, he did my Broken Sunlight layout. He's done great flyers around LA for, gigs that are going around LA. But I suggested it, and Trey was open, and I think she got the point across too. The layout came out good.
That's awesome. What's the best way for listeners to cop the new LP, SlimKid3 and DJ Nu-Mark?
It'll be in stores on vinyl as well as CD. Digitally, you can catch it at deliciousvinyl.com. Delicious Vinyl's putting out the record. If you want to follow me or see what I'm up to, I'll be posting all kinds of stuff about the album and hopefully some free goodies around it. I'm at unclenew.com, and all my social medias are DJ Nu-Mark, except for my Instagram, which is DJ Nu-Mark 808. But yeah, come hang out with me.
And what's next for you after, I guess, once this album's officially released, what's next?
I'm working on 2 mixes right now, and both of them I can't say what they are because the theme is a little delicate. But one is with a really, really well-known DJ that I really admire, and we're getting in the studio actually next week. I finished one project, I'm off to the next one, but and then the other mix I'm working on, it's just theme-oriented. I wish I could say more about it, damn. But I'll have more music coming soon, and I plan to do more work in movies. I did all the beats in Ride Along with Kevin Hart and Ice Cube, so I want to work more with Sony Pictures and Universal this coming year as well.
Do you imagine another? Is this? I mean, this album with Trey, is this kind of a one-off thing, or do you guys imagine working on other albums together?
Well, right now we're just kind of viewing it as a one-off thing, but you never know what could happen, man. You never know.
Cool. All right, the new album is SlimKid3 and DJ Nu-Mark. Comes out September 9th off of from Delicious Vinyl. DJ Nu-Mark, once again, thank you so much for joining me on The Library with Tim Heineco.
Thanks so much, Tim. Respect to you, brother.
Save big money on your entire roofing project now at Menards. Protect your home for years to come with Owens Corning Architectural Shingles. They offer long-lasting performance while providing ultimate protection with a 130 miles per hour wind rating and limited lifetime warranty. Choose from over 50 options of Owens Corning shingles in-store and on Menards.com. And check out more of our great deals going on now.
Save big money at Menards.
Hey, I'm Mark Goodman.
And I'm Alan Light.
On today's podcast, in celebration of International Guitar Month, Pete Townsend of The Who will join us.
Pete went deep with us into his relationship with the guitar and with music in general. The new Broadway version of Tommy. He clarified the status and the future of The Who and much, much more.
Sound Up with Mark Goodman and Alan Light, the only music podcast that matters. Get it on Pandora, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.